I sat on the bike for the first time, and my dad actually held the front brake on, and I remember revving the bike, and he just let the brake off. So I didn't even go a foot forward. I just flipped straight off the back of this thing.
Oh, no.
And I remember instantly being just terrified of this bike.
Hello and welcome to Meet Your Inspiration podcast with Mary and Rich. Here we're talking about inspiration, motivation and empowerment. Our guests are ordinary people who became extraordinary, and with sharing their stories, we want to empower you to become the person you want to be and to go beyond your dreams.
So we'd like to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Tom Ward. Tom is quite a talent on a motorbike, and he's going to share his experiences with you a little bit later. Welcome, Tom.
Welcome and thank you for your time.
That's right. Thank you for having me.
As always, we like to take you back in the time and tell us what's happened with you once you finish your secondary school, which path you take, and obviously to lead us to your passion.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the motorbike racing, I kind of started from a young age because my dad was always into motorbikes. Nothing to do with racing, but just had a general interest in motorbikes. So when we were kids, we had like little motorbikes that we used to, like the normal little PW50.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a common
Like
thing that kids have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like a twist and go 50cc. So I think I was about 4 or 5 when we had that,
Wow.
and then my brother was a little bit older. He's 3 years older than me. I remember actually coming down on it was Christmas Eve, and we came downstairs, and like when you'd open the curtains to like the back doors, this little PW50 was there, like all wrapped up, and we obviously weren't meant to know about it. So like the excitement levels then, like I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow.
But yeah, so we did a little bit of like riding on smaller bikes, and then the reason why I started racing is my dad entered a competition in the Motorcycle News magazine. So it's like car magazine, bike magazine, so the biggest kind of bike magazine there is. And there was a competition to win a mini moto, which is one of those small little pocket bikes. So he sent the answer in on a mudguard of a Honda Fireblade bike.
Right.
So obviously this is back in the day of like postal. There wasn't email or anything.
Yeah.
So obviously we won this mini moto because someone's obviously put their hand in their bag to pull out. I'm like, what the hell is that? So yeah, we won this mini moto, and we used to just ride it around car parks on like on a Friday evening.
Wow.
And we used to go down to, it was like Pizza Hut car park down in Broadstairs, and we did it for a couple of weekends, and the police eventually came and were like, you can't really do this. So then we started going to little tracks, and that's kind of how it began, and just kind of progressed from there.
So you learned the craft literally on a little one of these little bikes.
On a tiny little bike.
Wow.
Yeah, to be honest, my first experience with a bike was when I was about 5. I sat on the bike for the first time, and my dad actually held the front brake on, and I remember revving the bike, and he just let the brake off. So I didn't even go a foot forward. I just flipped straight off the back of this thing.
Oh, no.
And I remember instantly being just terrified of this bike, but obviously as time went on, I kind of got used to it.
Yeah. Wow.
So does it mean that after secondary school straight away did you carry on anything with school, or you just addicted more to the motorbikes?
Yeah, it was still always a hobby. So it was a hobby. And my dad kind of, at the time when we were younger, it wasn't like an expensive hobby because we would go away. We had the little mini motos.
Yeah.
It didn't cost a lot. You didn't really have to pay tyres, and fuel wasn't expensive. So then, so I was doing it through primary school and then into secondary school. And then my brother basically quit racing. He was actually quite good. He stopped racing, and my dad was like, do you want to carry on? And at the time I wasn't very good. And then when my brother stopped, I obviously carried on, and then I just started to do really well. I don't know what the reason was for that.
And what age were you? Because obviously when you if you're in like car racing, obviously most of the lads start in karts.
Yeah.
So like car racing, obviously they're sort of scaled sizes.
Yeah.
And then you sort of build up, and they just get to that level. So you're racing all the way through. But on a bike, there's a big jump, I guess, because there's not a middle-sized motorbike.
No.
Is there? because
Not
you've got the
really.
little ones or
And then
a
you're in a
full-time
big,
bike.
yeah, exactly.
So at what age do you go from the mini bike to actually get on a full-size bike to start riding?
So, I mean, it's changed recently because it used to be like super, super young. You could jump on like a big bike when you were really young, whereas now, because of like health and safety and like regulation, they've changed it. So they're pushing it back to be, you need to be older before you can go on like a big circuit, like a Brands Hatch or a Silverstone.
Yeah.
But at the time, it will go mini moto, which are like, they're like 4.2 cc, so they tiny.
Oh, really?
It's like
No
a
power
like
at all.
a yeah, literally like a hedge trimmer engine
Yeah.
in it, but they can still do 50, 60 mile an hour.
Oh, wow.
And then you can go to these like 50 cc, which is kind of like a small wheel, big looking bike, but still on go kart tracks. And then the big jump is when you go from a go kart track to a Brands Hatch or a like a big track like that. And I remember the first time I'd never been on a big circuit, and I went to Germany. I got did this selection process called Red Bull Rookies.
Okay.
So we flew out to, they pay for it, and you go out there on like selection. We went to the Saxon Ring, turned up, and they're all the bikes, like there's KTM's there, and you basically do like a trial. And I remember getting on this bike. I'd never ridden with gears. I'd never been on a track wider than a go-kart track.
Yeah.
And was just like, it felt like I was on a motorway riding around, like like learning how to change gear. It was, yeah, like definitely the baptism of fire. But yeah, that's kind of how it progressed. And then when I was, oh God, I must have been 13, I think, when I was in secondary school. I then went on to the Aprilia Super Teams, which was the first championship on big tracks.
Yeah.
So that was like the kind of big. But the weird thing was, like I said, I wasn't very good when I was younger. But then, the bigger the bike I got on, the better I became and the faster I became, which is weird. All the people who I rode against in the first year, who maybe like beat me, there was like 3 or 4 people who beat me in front of me. Then the next year, I was like miles ahead of them. And the next year, which was weird, and by the age of I think 15, I had to get dispensation. I was riding a 600 cc on in racing, so I had to have dispensation just to even ride it.
Because you were so young.
Because I was so young, yeah, and it was kind of like
talent as well at that age.
Well, yeah, it's a weird one because I just jumped. I didn't jump too quick because then when I jumped into it, I think qualified like second in my first race, which was then you kind of think, oh, I'm actually all right at this.
And then you're up against.
Oh God,
a really good driver.
Well, when that first year, I think it was 2011, and like I say, I qualified second, and there was a guy who was like the Super Sport champion to the left of me, Super Sport champion to the right,
Wow.
and I was like, then it kind of.
You thought, oh, I must be quite good at this.
Well, you do, but then I guess then there's pressure and there's all them other things, and I think I led the first race and then I crashed because it was just like, oh my God, what's going on? But yeah.
And I guess that must be real pressure. I mean, I can't imagine what it must be like, but you to sort of at that age to be leading a race and to be there and thinking, where are they going to break?
Yeah,
because where am I going to break? Because that's the thing, isn't it? Because it's learning that the limit, because they're going to be at the latest breakers because they're with the experience. You're thinking, oh, maybe I could just get around it.
Yeah, I definitely think I've always had that. A lot of riders, when you speak to them, they sort of just seem to remove their brain and don't really think much. Whereas I've always been a bit of like an overthinker, really. But I'll see someone, if someone's on the same bike as me with the same tyres, I'm like, well, if they're capable of doing that, then so there's no reason why I can't.
Yeah.
Just like physics, it says that if he's doing it on that machinery with those compound tyres, and I'm capable of doing the same thing. So I think that's been quite a good thing to always have in the back of your mind whenever you jump to another class or a new bike. You know what's possible by seeing what people around you can do, and then it's just your own limiting beliefs or
Can I ask you, when we go back, so as you go in a younger age, and obviously you said you didn't feel as if you were so quick, and it was you sort of elevated as you went along. But one of the amazing things is sort of because how does someone teach you like where because you if you're in a car, you're sitting next to an instructor, and you get to feel it. When you're on a bike, it's you, the machine, and your mind, and the limit of adhesion and the feeling. So how did you learn the craft and get the balance? Because obviously, I mean, I think for anyone who's not used to racing or not even used to riding a bike, when you guys go around a corner and your knees like right on the ground, like sort of rubbing in it, you're thinking, wow, and it's sort of to get that confidence, and even the angles you guys go at. I mean, the tyres like nothing.
Yeah.
So how do you build that confidence when you're so young and going into it?
I'm not. I think it is just like you say. It's just experience. The more you do of it, the more you learn, and the more races you have, the more you crash. The closer you get to the limit. I didn't really ever have someone to teach me because my dad didn't have. My dad didn't like he rode a bike on the road, but he had. Do you know what I mean? He couldn't give me any kind of like information, or I didn't really have anyone around me who kind of had that. I think you just try and learn from the other people. Like I say, when you follow what they do, and people always say, "Oh, how do you like know when you're going to crash?" Or like, "How do you have so much feeling?" But if you imagine most people on a scale of like 0 being here, 100% being here, you go to 101%, then you crash.
Yes.
So, but most people only ever ride a bike, even on track days, to probably like 50%. So they're nowhere near the limit. And then what happens is they'll just push one corner to 101%, and then they crash. They go, "Oh God, what happened? Why did I crash?" Whereas when you can ride at like 99% or at 100%, you can feel exactly where the limit is. So because you're riding so close to that, you're gaining more experience with, right, if I lean a little bit further, you can feel the front tyre like start to tuck. And then when you turn around the corner, rather than the bike just obviously naturally turns with lean angle, then you start to pick up the throttle. It sounds ridiculous, but you're obviously leaning over, your knees on the floor, your elbows on the floor. So you've got like not only 2 points of contact with the tyre, but your knee and your elbow. So you can take weight off of.
Oh, so your elbow and your knee is actually literally touching the floor.
Yeah, and you have
and you actually use that for stability.
Yeah, so you use it. So you have these little like sliders. They're just like plastic sliders, and then as you can feel the front is starting to like you get this thing. It's called like the front is folding. So as you're on the brake and you're obviously at the limit of what the front tire can do, it starts to fold. So as it starts to go like this, you know, right, that's the limit there. Then as you let off the front brake and start to turn, you then touch the throttle, and then as the rear wheel starts to spin, you break traction. So then the rear goes like this, and then you can turn even tighter. And then it's all about balance.
Wow.
So it's all about, which I guess is some people have naturally more balance than other people. You know,
sure.
You always get them kids at school who could balance on their chair forever.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a better feeling.
Yeah.
But again, like you said earlier about being like, you'd be so tense, but the tenser you are, the less
you fall off.
and the less you can feel. So the
you've
more
got
relaxed you can be
Have
on the
you
bike.
ever felt that fear in the beginning when you start, or you never been
No, I
that
think-
like? I mean,
No.
as I met you,
Yeah.
obviously you are quite realistic, and you mentioned a few times that there is a risk.
Yeah.
But about you knew the risk, but did you ever had that fear, or you just go and enjoy and you know
Not
that?
really. I think I've always been, probably if you ask my parents, I've always been hanging off of balconies and jumping off stuff, and like I've always like obviously you get scared of like no one wants to really injure yourself. You don't want to die, obviously, but I think from a younger age doing stuff, especially doing the bike racing, you grow up doing it, so you don't really have that fear. But don't get me wrong, there's still times where I'll go out and I'll be like, this is ridiculous. It's like so wet. It's like we shouldn't be riding in this.
Yeah.
But then I just say it's calculated risk. If you have a bike that's underprepared and you're mentally not in a good state, you shouldn't really be riding, or you shouldn't be out there riding that bike, because the risk then goes up. Whereas if you've got a meticulously well prepared bike and you are really confident in your ability and you know where the limit is, your risk then obviously goes down. The only problem, that the danger of it is like I said earlier, with when you crash, if the bike landed on top of you or if someone runs you over, because then that's out of your control.
Exactly.
And that's the only scary, like the part where I always think,
because a lot of people, if you're slipstreaming someone else, you're blind to what's in front of you.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
the other person moves and something happens like two bikes in front of you, which is such a short distance.
And it doesn't matter if you can be a Marc Marquez, Valentino Rossi, Lando Norris. Your reactions, doesn't matter how quick they are, you can't avoid
Sometimes,
some certain.
How
things.
about your mom? Is she coming on your races?
She does. Yeah, she used to like come when she does like come more like now she has more time. She comes. It's always kind of been me and my dad that go together, and my brother, and it was kind of like a father son type of thing. But yeah, my mum doesn't like it very much. But yeah, there's been some. It's always been really difficult because it's really selfish. so selfish. In any sport, any like elite sport, you have to put all of your time, all of your effort.
Of course.
If you want to be the best and you want to win, you can't just put in 80% or 90%. You've got to be completely committed.
Is it at the moment your main commitment and your main thing that you're doing is the motorsport?
Yeah, I do. So I work. So me and my dad have got a paint spraying business. So we paint cars and bikes, like body work, repair and stuff. So I do that in the week because I could if I did it a couple of years ago where I had 1 year of like trying to do it. So I just solely focused on the motorbike racing. But you can't. If I was a professional runner, it would make sense to have no job because if you're training like 30 hours a week. And you need to train 30 hours a week to be competitive.
Yeah.
Whereas in motorbike racing, I can't go and ride a bike every day.
No.
So you can't I train every day and do like, probably 10 to 14.
Fit.
Yeah. So I try and do like 10 to 14 hours training a week and then work as well. So it's kind of, but having a balance is.
And is it all levels of fitness? What sort of routine would you use for keeping fit in terms of like and training? I guess you have a trainer as well to make sure you're doing a regime.
My friend Chris, he's like an amazing. He's a time trial specialist cyclist, but he's now like training to do his pro license to be a pro triathlete, and he's just done his PhD, so he's like a sports scientist, so he's super clued up. So I train with him all the time, and so he just we do the same kind of training, but it's like running, cycling, strength training, rowing. We do sort of like everything because you can't replicate racing.
No,
it's got everything. There's so much. It's a full body thing. When you look at it, most people go, "Oh, I can't even. That's not a workout," But like you ride a bike round Cabell Park for 25 minutes. Your heart rate's at like 190 BPM, and obviously the concentration level is
That's probably as well. Yeah, this is concentration, mind, all these things as well. You
Definitely.
have to train, and
Yeah.
not that I understand much, but what I was watching on this F1 behind the scene, and you see that
even those guys, like you
they're
wouldn't
doing
think,
obviously all these athletes and people, sports
Definitely,
people. They have to look not only the performance and that fit, but mentality as well is quite important. And your races are every weekend or every second weekend? How?
So there's there's a thing. So a race in two different categories. A race in the British Superbike Championship, which is usually 11 or 12 rounds throughout the year. Starts in May this year, January, March, April. Yeah, in May, and then finishes in October.
Okay.
So that's just in the UK. There is one round when we go to the Netherlands, go to Assen. And then I race in another thing called the World Endurance Championship, which is 4 rounds in France, Belgium, Japan, and then France again to end. So it's probably like in the season it's like every 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. So it's quite busy, but again it's usually only sort of Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
Are you part of a team?
Yes.
Or how it's?
Yeah.
Because obviously I assume everybody got a team, and when you move, let's say when you have to go France or Japan, how this motorbike is?
So there's two. So most people all in the World Endurance, you only ride in a team because like the team puts together the bike, and then you usually have there's 3 riders in our team in the World Endurance. So they're like 24-hour races. So you start at 12 o'clock on Saturday, finish at 12 o'clock on Sunday, and then one rider, the other rider. So you do like an hour each. But then...
in these 12 hours, you change all the time? Or?
Well, yeah. So if we're doing a 24-hour race, you do about 50 minutes. So say I ride the bike for 50 minutes and my teammate rides for 50 minutes, other teammate rides for 50 minutes, and you're back on the bike. So often you end up doing like 10 or 11 sessions of 50 minutes.
Wow.
Which is like, that's where the fitness really comes into it. Yeah. Whereas the BSB isn't like fitness level. It is important, but it's not that important because you're only riding for like 20 minutes. So like getting someone to do a 5K run and going, right, do a 5K on Sunday just as fast as you can. You'll be absolutely knackered afterwards, but that's all you've got to do. Whereas then say, okay, do a 10-mile run and then stop for an hour and a half, then do it 10 more times. You'll be like,
wow. That's
maybe a 10K run.
So in a 24-hour period like that, do you have like a 20-minute to sleep or half an hour to sleep?
Yeah, you sort of you're meant to. I've never ever slept just because I'm so like engrossed in the race, and you're constantly listening. All the commentaries in French, so I've like learned a bit of French, and our number is 27, so it's Vanset, and shoot is crash. So like, you're always like when you're getting a massage or like you're eating your food, waiting, you're always like if they go, oh Vanset, shoot, you're like, oh no, they've crashed. So which I need to learn to again like relax because I can't make I'm not going to be able to change anything what the other riders are doing. So yeah, it is hard though.
How many bikes are there? Is it just one bike?
Just one bike. So you start the weekend with two, and then in qualifying, so say I went out and then I crashed, for instance, there's another bike that the second rider can jump on. But then on the morning of the race, no, sorry, when the race starts, they have to pull the second bike out the back, and then they have to strip it down. So you've only got one bike.
Oh, so.
Yeah, and if you have an engine failure, you can't swap the engine. You would have to strip the engine apart and replace
it, and then
which is almost impossible. Like a couple of people have done it before, but by the time you've done it, you might have lost 4 hours.
Yeah, of course.
So it's a lot, but the world endurance is it's super boring to watch. So watching paint dry, when you watch the recap, it's amazing because you've got 24 hours packed into half an hour. It's amazing, but like when you're there doing it and as a team sport, it's amazing. It's on another level to the BSB.
But how close are the races in terms of timings between one rider and another? Because obviously when you're like a British Superbikes and MotoGP, it's everyone's right close to each other. But surely it must spread out quite a lot.
It does spread out a lot, yeah. Sometimes it can come down to, for instance, when we were at Boldor last year, the Paul Ricard circuit, it's called the Golden Bowl because you literally get a Golden Bowl trophy. And we were in third place, and then we had a mechanical problem with a front brake, and we were on the same lap. So after like 23 hours of racing, we were literally on the same lap as third and fourth position. Wow. So if we lost it, we would lose a podium, and we managed to, and we won it just by a lap. So when it comes down to, and it's come down to the race being with both riders, which is just you think is almost impossible. Yeah,
exactly.
But yes, it's but then other times you could be 5 laps behind the guy in second and 10 laps in front of the people in fourth. So,
but I guess even then it doesn't feel safe though, particularly because it only takes one.
Yeah, and you do. Sounds really daft, but the less you concentrate, if you're like, oh, you can ease off now. God, everything hurts. Like you can feel every muscle that aches in your body, and it's physically hard to ride the bike. Whereas when you're in the race and you're concentrating, you kind of forget about all the pain.
How you feel. There's lots of people were saying about that. So obviously it's again about how you train your mind.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if you're relaxed on the bike and in your mind, it helps massively.
Talking about some big names into, did you meet any of the big bike racers?
I have met quite a few. Yeah, I've been lucky enough. I've always my idol has always been Valentino Rossi when we've been growing up.
That's the only name I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you tell me bike sports.
But yeah, he's the main one. And then I was lucky enough. My friend got invited to this. He has a big race at his own. He's got his own private track, which is like a dirt track.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to explain. It's called flat track. It's like motocross bikes with kind of road wheels on them. And he puts this big event on every year, and he invites riders from all over the world.
Wow.
So I invited my friend Brad, or he got invited through his leather company. Then I managed to go with him as well and got to ride. And it was just like, they say you never meet your heroes, do you? But we're so nervous because he was the coolest guy ever.
Is he?
Yeah, and I never really stuck for words, like speaking to people, but I just was. He came over, and he's obviously like Italian, and we were looking at the timesheets, and he goes, "Ciao, boys, how you doing?" Like this, and we were like,
"Hello."
Just
looking at him.
Oh my
He gave us a hug, and we just walked off like. Oh my god! Yeah, it's quite
I
funny.
love that phrase that you said, to meet your hero. Probably, really.
Yeah,
This
it
is
was
such
incredible.
amazing.
I was really scared because I was like, imagine if it was really horrible, and
Mm.
then you'd be like, oh, all them years you've
Yeah, because
like,
sometimes they say that, you don't want to meet your hero because it might
no,
disappoint you.
yeah,
Exactly opposite.
oh god,
Yeah, exactly the opposite.
yeah.
So that was a good experience.
That was really cool. Yeah, we got to ride this year when we did Le Mans for the 24 hours. Our teammate was Michael Dunlop, who's obviously the road racing like legend, and he was quality because he's your teammate. So you kind of forget who the person is, and like obviously you got all the media and everyone around like that, but he's just a complete just normal guy, and like you're just getting changed in your underpants next to each other, just having a laugh about stuff. So you kind of it's not until afterwards you realize like this, I think everyone in motorsport and like motorbikes are just chilled people who love riding, so everyone gets on.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
sort of no one really puts anyone on a pedestal, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's good, and you feel good in that environment.
Yeah.
Obviously, what are your goals there now? Have you got certain goals, certain levels you want to achieve? How
Yeah,
is?
I've always like put a lot of pressure on racing and wanted to do really well, and then the last couple of years I sort of took a step back from it and was like, there is more to life than riding bikes. It's, you grow up it being everything. And then I had a year out of riding the BSB, and that's when I got introduced to the World Endurance, and I realised how much you could enjoy riding again. But now I got a really good opportunity this year to ride in BSB and to ride in World Endurance, but with a really competitive package. So
you've got a proper works bike for both sides.
yeah, they're sort of like when you say we've got really, really good support. So we're kind of like supported from Honda France in the World Endurance, and it kind of carries over to the BSB.
Yeah.
So we know we've got brand new bikes, which we should be getting soon. So when we go out testing on them, we'll know for sure, they're all set up, and we've got a really good like sensation with the bike, and we can go far. So we have in both championships have the potential to win the BSB, like the Super Stock Championship. There's some really competitive people in there, but it's like my best opportunity I've had to do it. And then the same in the World Endurance Championship. We have the potential to win the World Championship, which would be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, it kind of takes the pressure off each one as well, because it's if one's not going well, but the other one's going well, or they're both going well, it's I'm just really grateful that I'm able to even ride a bike. It's been my dream since a kid, and now I'm able to even do it as a it's still a hobby in essence. I'm not like a
You're not
professional
earning
professional.
what does it mean? If you say hobby, you don't earn anything
Well,
of it, or
I do, yeah. So I obviously still work normally, but then like there's prize money in them and stuff. So with the rides, it depends on the team, but some people get like free rides or they get paid rides. And then with both my rides this year, it's basically I'm like one of the rides, the World Endurance, I get paid a bit of money per round and all your expenses, and then it's similar in the BSB. But like with your personal sponsors, a lot of people how racing works is you feel almost bad doing it, but in the past, if I've had to pay for a ride, for instance, a bit like Formula One, the only way to pay, I don't earn enough money to be able to pay 40, 50, 60,000 pound for a ride. So like
that's per race.
No, for the whole season, which is still like it's really expensive.
Exactly.
But you rely on having like kind people who sponsor you, and obviously they do get something out of it because they get advertising and bits and bobs. But in reality, how many people go, "Oh, that the logo you've got on your chest"? Most people don't even like know what the company is. But they then give you money, then you pay for your racing. Whereas now, because obviously I don't have to pay as much, most of the riders then keep that as their wage. So it seems a bit like of a strange thing to do, but as long as you're kind of upfront with your sponsors and saying like, if you still want to sponsor me, but that is actually covering my wage type of thing.
Escape to luxury at Hempstead House Hotel and Spa, an elegant country house hotel in Batchild near Sittingbourne, Kent. Relax with indulgent spa treatments. Dine in style with exquisite cuisine. Perfect for getaways, weddings and events. Experience luxury in the heart of Kent. Book your stay today.
Be the first to discover Kent's best events all in one free app. What's On in Kent is a new and rapidly growing app where you can find days out information, places to eat, festivals, concerts, markets, and much more around you. Just with few clicks on your phone or computer, you can stay updated with real-time info and explore events across Kent. Don't even think twice. Just download. It's free. How did you find out finding the sponsor and obviously secure them during the years? I mean, even when you were younger, when you started.
Yeah. Oh God, it was so like it was. So my dad used to basically when I first started racing, he would like pay for stuff, and one year it was like £10,000 or £15,000, which obviously for him to find was massive. And at the time, he had the body shop. He had quite a few people working for him, and kind of managed to like put a lot of money through the business. And but again, it's like financially a strain. Not only because on my brother, on my mum, on the other family members. So I stopped racing in 2013 because we had no money, and then I basically went away. I actually ended up doing a ski season. I was like, oh my God, I miss racing so much. The only way I'm going to do it is to go out and secure sponsorship myself to fund doing it, and that's what I did. I worked really, really hard. I managed to get sponsors, and then raced in 2014, and that's when I started to kind of, rather than it being given to you on a plate because your parents are just, it's a part and parcel. Really
so you're writing to people, phoning people up, and
everything.
Any way you could possibly.
I was quite lucky, really, because my mum is a graphic designer and she does so I'd be like hounding her to help me make this kind of like a CV type of thing or like a sponsorship pack. And then, God, I remember one year sending out like over 100 sponsorship packs to anyone and everyone. And like
what you were targeting? Big companies, local companies,
everything,
or everything?
literally everything. Because again, when you start doing stuff like that, you've got no idea where to start. You just sort of go, oh, should I send it to Asda? Should I send it to Bill down the road who's got an electrical company? Or exactly,
big companies, Apple.
But
Where'd you go?
What I found.
So, from your experience, what is the best way to do it?
Well, I think what ends up happening is you end up meeting people in the racing community who are into bikes, who've either got their own companies and pretty much every single one of my sponsors who helps me are my friends. So I always feel it weird saying, oh, he's my sponsor, because he's just like, Steve, my mate, or Paul, my mate, Dave, my mate. He's
but obviously they've seen that you are good and they want to help you. So
that's what's really nice.
I always start winning, don't they? Really, because then their brand is getting right in front of the world.
Definitely, yeah, and it's nice to share it with them because you are friends with them. You speak to them all the time. It's so nice to have them because it gives me more confidence when I ride. I'm like, God, if this guy, he obviously really believes in me and thinks I can do well because he's given me money to follow my dream type of thing. Yeah. Which is, I always say, if I was in that position, I would like to be able to do the same. Exactly. I'd like to be able to give back and do that.
With Richard, we've got a mission at the moment because I've got a neighbor, and he's a young boy, 9, 10 years old.
Go-kart?
Yes,
go-kart lad.
He's
I remember
in
you said to my mum.
And this is what you're telling me really reminds him and his story. And I really hope that after 10 years he will make it and he will be like you, because now, as I can see, his family is a lot putting and exactly what you're saying, just it's on the other side, but what I know is the same. It needs money, and this is what with Richard we try wherever we go as well to promote and somehow to explain that this is the moment where when someone needs help. And as you said, you start to reach different places. Some people will come back, some not. Of course, I do understand, but it is obviously the start, because probably once you get into it, and I assume most of your sponsors are probably the same people, and probably in the time you're gonna get more and more because you are
definitely
getting much more attention and winning, and this is
it's such a double-edged sword because I see it all the time. My friend Brad, he just raced in World Superbikes last year, so he's kind of got to the top level and he won the British Superbike Championship. But at one point we were like both in exactly the same position where you're trying to get a ride, you're trying to get sponsors, but then when you really need a hand is on the way up, like that lad. if I had to say tomorrow, oh, here's 100 grand, then all of a sudden you could just give him that opportunity to get somewhere. But then say he then wins and wins and wins, and in 3 or 4 years' time he's in like Formula 3 or something like this. People will just be chucking money at him, which is crazy because there's people, and obviously I understand it from a sponsor's point of view if they want to get advertising because they're like a current.
But my
person.
point, and what I'm really talking about, and Rich is quite supportive on that as well. And it's not only about the sports ones.
Yeah.
Even for a podcast, or doesn't matter, whoever starts something, it's not once you are already on the top or once you make it, of course, it's always good to have support and help.
Definitely, yeah.
But the most help make it when you are in the beginning, and how you said it, when someone believes in you, and it's not only about investment to get something from it. It's a bit more if you are able to help someone, just genuine to help and support, because for some people this is a huge dream.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And almost look, years later, are you talking about that with such a big smile on your face? And makes, because it's your passion and your dream.
It's amazing. You to have something like a sport where you have to rely on people's generosity to get you kick-started is incredible, really, because how nice is that to be able to be someone who can help, because it might be someone else's dream, or I know that like my dad lives it quite vicariously through me. He loves the fact that I'm doing it. He probably he would have probably loved to doing it, or the guys who help me, they a lot of them ride motorbikes. They're like, oh, I wish I did it when I was your age, and so it's quite nice because they share. When you win, they win. It's no different.
Which is the best feeling to be shared.
That's what's like
It's interesting as well, because around that, one of the things that I was talking to Ronnie's father, and I was asking sort of like, because I remember my brother, he used to work for Jonathan Palmer, and when Jonathan Palmer's son Jolyon obviously became a Formula One driver, before he was racing, so he was racing through his father, and I asked my brother, because he was his race engineer. And I said to him, well, what's the difference between one driver and another? When your comparison, he said, the consistency is, he said, when you watch the good ones, he said they lap after lap after lap within 0.1 of a second, 0.2 of a second. And when you say you need to go faster, they'll go 0.2 of a second faster or 0.3 of a second faster, and they'll turn it on. When you go, okay, now you need to ease off a little bit, then they'll go 0.2, 0.3 of a second slower. And they can do it like a metronome. And it was interesting. I was asking Ronnie's father, and I said to him, how good is Ronnie? And he says, well, when he's lapping, I think most of his races he does like in sitting board. And he says, well, he's lapping within 0.1 of a second. I went, well, that tells you everything about his skill level. And I guess that the limits and the tightness must be the same in bikes as well.
Yeah, it is definitely, and it is. That's all about. You get people where you obviously have qualifying where you just do one lap like crazy fast, but it's quite funny because if you look at the qualifying lap times, often you'll get one person who's done like, for instance, a 1:26.0, and then their second fastest lap is a 1:27.0, so it's 1 full second slower. But then you look at someone else and they might do a 1:26.4, 1:26.4, 1:26.5. So in a race, it doesn't matter if you can do the lap record on the second lap, but if you're a second and a half a lap slower for every single lap, you're going to lose. You know what I mean? You're going to be like 10th. So that's what's really good with the world endurance, because you ride so much, you get so much time on the bike, you then become like, you do 50 minutes straight and you are literally within a couple of attempts every single lap.
Really?
That is what a good race run is all about. When you come in and you're like, I've done an unbelievable race run there, it's when you've just
see your timing.
Your target lap after lap.
And you're just like a robot. You're just boom on the brakes, pick up the throttle, like it's in exactly the same place. So do the tyres not wear as much when you're doing an endurance race? So the tyres last much longer.
Yeah. To get that consistency, because again, like when you compare with other racing, you watch other racers. Obviously, you see when the laps are new, the tyres are good. And they're amazing. And then as the tyres drop off.
It's crazy, yes. With the Pirellis, which you ride in BSB, they're like a lot softer. And even if you feel the tyre, like if I gave you the tyre brand new, now you can like fold the tyre inside out. It's got like I think it's like the carcass of the tire is made out of I don't know what it is. It's like a string type of thing. So the bottom of the compound, so it's really, really light. And then I give you a Dunlop tire, what we ride on in World Endurance. It's absolutely solid, and I think it actually has metal, like a metal carcass.
Yeah.
So it's maybe like a kilo heavier, but it doesn't have anywhere near as much outright grip. So it might be a second slower than the fastest time on a Pirelli, but it will never go for an hour, 2 hours. You won't go more than a second slower.
Wow.
Whereas the Pirelli, after an hour, you'll be going 4 seconds a lap slower. So it's just so consistent. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to do the race really on Pirellis. You wouldn't be able to do it. You'd have to change the tyres every single session. Every time you do a rider change,
expensive change.
Well, the main teams, they're doing. I'm pretty sure I heard that their budget for the year is like €500,000 in tyres.
Wow.
So you imagine if they're doing a 24-hour race, they are literally doing 24 sets of tyre changes.
And how quick?
Well, more than that, 26.
And how quickly they change the wheels and tyres on?
Crazy quick. On a superbike, it is like you watch a video of it. It's like less than maybe 5-6 seconds.
Wow.
It's like not Formula One quick because you've obviously got to take a chain off.
Exactly. Yeah,
but they literally have 3 people on the rear wheel, 3 people on the front. They go out in, and you're like, yeah.
And do you still sit on the bike sort of thing while it's going on?
No, you have to stand. You have to jump off the bike. So when you come in, there's like.
I'm gonna watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, I got a really good video on my phone actually of our team doing it.
Wow,
but yeah,
you share with us, and we're gonna share it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because it sounds really cool. Yeah. It's interesting to see.
It's a silly thing because we didn't ever even think about it. But one of the guys posted a video of it, and it got like millions of views because it was just something different. You always watch the bike go around the track, but you never actually watch them changing wheels. Yeah, which is quite cool.
Have you got any habits before race or something that you like to do the week before, the day before? I don't know.
Not really. I used to be quite superstitious when I was younger, and then I sort of had a weekend in 2016 where I was always like, got to touch a bit of wood before you go out, and if someone said something like negative, I'd have to take my glove off quickly and then touch the wood again. And then this one weekend I was like, right, I'm just going to do the opposite to everything. Like, so as soon as I think it, and I thought it's either going to go really, really wrong or I'm going to eliminate the superstition forever. And then I basically did. I won my first race. And without having any superstition, I was like, right, okay, I can. So now, sometimes I'd be like, oh, touch wood, and I'm like, no, I don't need to. There's always that little.
Yeah, of course. You know. And what is keeping you motivated all the time?
I don't know. I love riding bikes. It sounds really daft, but my girlfriend's just like, I don't understand how you like. I could ride around a track all day, every day for like a week straight. And I wouldn't get bored.
And this,
I don't know. It's really odd.
This is when we talk about passion. To do what you love.
And I think I'm lucky enough when I done it as a kid, and I knew I obviously loved it then, but I can't explain. When you ride a bike, you don't think about anything either. There's never a thought of like, oh God, what am I having for breakfast? Are you worrying about this? You're worrying about that. You're in this like zone where you just completely, you're away from reality, and all you're doing is concentrate, and the feeling of it is so satisfying. Like, it's a really strange thing.
Of bikes. I don't know how you talk about that like that.
It's
so
really
easy.
Relaxing though, and when you get it right, there's nothing more rewarding than, and it is mental because you are just going round and round in circles.
So Tom, I guess one of the things that sort of when you're obviously riding in the 2 series that you're riding it, which is like you said, I mean, this year you're riding in 2 different series on a mega competitive bike.
Yeah.
So you'd expect you should do pretty in a good position.
Yeah.
You're on the top of your game, so you know you're going to know how to win. So like from that, do you have that sort of to go to the European or the World Superbikes? Is that sort of it? Do you get to that ambition, or even to have a go on MotoGP? Can you even get to have a go on one of those bikes to see how competitive you're on a MotoGP? I mean, how do you get picked out to the next levels?
Really hard, I think,
because it must be mega competitive.
Yeah, to get to MotoGP is almost like impossible now for anyone. Like even the best riders in World Superbike struggle to get across, and the only way to get into MotoGP is to move into Europe when you're a kid. So if you move into Europe when you're a kid and then you go through like the Spanish championships and the European championships, then the teams pick you up and then you go straight into MotoGP. Because again, there's lower classes in the GP, like the 250s and the Moto 2 class. That's the only real way. There's one guy, Jake, who's in it at the minute, who I used to race with when I was a kid, and he's got through to MotoGP. But again, his dad is an ex world champion, so he's got really good contact. So to bridge across he's done really well, because it's almost impossible to do.
So is it again all about money?
It's about money and people and who you know. Money and who you know. Yeah, I'm sure if I have a kid and they race, it's going to be a lot easier for them because
you've got
all the contacts. Yeah. I remember cycling around the track with Jake when we were like kids, and then this guy Clive Paget, who's like a well-known race team owner, and he was like, "Oh, Jake, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's Clive Paget, and he's talking to you like when we're like 14 or whatever." And so again, just him having those contacts sets you up. But yes, it is all about who you know and how much money you've got, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was quite surprised, and even when I was asking questions about F1, it's the same.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you have to
car
start
racing
young,
and I feel like,
and there's so much money involved that it's crazy.
It is mad.
And at the end, you've got 20 people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And then don't know if they're going to be there for the next season.
Oh, it's
so
mental.
depends.
And then
So
the
it
difference
is crazy.
as well, the difference in the performance between, I guess, individual bikes and individual teams and because the components in the bike must be almost the same, or are there lots of little subtle differences?
There's differences in like the manufacturers, and it's the same, no different to Formula One. As I don't follow Formula One that much, so I don't know much about it. But I know that like it was always Verstappen's team, wasn't it? That they were like sort of like the step above the rest, and then is it like the Renault team and Ferrari have kind of bridged the gap to them?
Yeah, McLaren came up. Yeah,
that's
McLaren
it.
Came up, and Ferrari. So, I mean, at the moment there's like almost four teams they're almost
level
on
pegging.
Level,
yeah, and it's similar in like super stock and Superbike. You'll get something like the Ducati in Superbike is a really like pretty much the most competitive bike. But then in super stock at the minute, everyone's got Hondas, but then BMW make an amazing bike. But then like Kawasaki are less competitive, Suzuki are less competitive. But then when they bring out a new bike, then they'll probably set the benchmark. So yeah, it is. You could get someone ride a Suzuki, for instance, in 2023. I rode a Suzuki in World Endurance and like struggled to. I think I got in like the top 5 or top 6 of qualifying a couple of times, but the bike is like 20 horsepower down on a Honda. Whereas this year, like I could go out and I'd be the fastest in qualifying, and like have like half a second gap, and I'm not riding any better than I was on the Suzuki, but I'm just on a better bike, and that's all the difference.
The balance. And the setup, I mean, there must be a lot of setup differences and changes. Obviously you can optimise stuff, I guess.
Definitely, yeah. I think mostly with a bike, the balance is an important part of actually physically, like the balance between the front and the rear wheel. But then the power of the bike straight away. If you imagine, if the bike is going to go up a straight a second quicker than the other bike, you found a second strate away. So there's no difference in the corner. And then electronics in the bike, like the Honda has really, really good computer system, like the ECU. So the electronics are really good. So, yeah.
So that's about power delivery,
traction control, engine braking, your lean angle, like it has like lean angle sensors, and even the way the characteristics of the frame and the swing arm, like if you have a more rigid bike, you get less feel from it, and you sometimes have a softer bike that works better on the side of the tire. There's so many different things. You could almost grab, if you could grab every good part of each manufacturer and combine them, you would have this. That would be almost like a MotoGP bike, I guess, taking all the best characteristics.
I'm not gonna ask if you go back. Would you like to change something? Because I don't think you would love to change. I think you are
just win the lottery when I'm 12 years old.
Yeah, probably that's gonna be. But if a young motorbike person is listening us now, what advice would you give them?
I would say never, definitely never give up. Never give up on your dream, because obviously to pursue something, and you've obviously got to be persistent. There's been so many times I was going to quit racing 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden, like an opportunity came up and then that comes out of the blue. So you never know when those things are going to happen. But I think you've just got to really dream big. Because when I was a kid and I was rubbish, I always thought I'm never going to be a good rider.
Well, I think you're a perfect example because, as you said, you don't have any special family link with anything like that except your father passion about bikes. But you're a clear example that you made it. And whatever you did, what you did is absolutely brilliant and it's
thank you.
admirable. And to come from you, it's really nice for people to hear that it is possible.
Yeah, definitely.
At least until certain place.
Yeah. It's definitely, I think always as well, like to stay grounded as a person, because it's, you know where your roots are. Like I work and stuff, which is still, and I know you don't necessarily have to do that, because when you become like a professional, if I had a contract where they were like, right, we just want you to train and do this, you would do it. But I think growing up and it not being given on the plate, you then appreciate all the other things, So it's definitely, I'm really grateful, like I said earlier, to be in the position I am, to even be riding bikes. It's such a dream come
it's a
true.
phenomenal thing because obviously you have to be a natural talent to do what you do, don't you?
Yes,
but it's one of those things you probably just take for granted.
Yeah, I think I probably do. Yeah, but I do think you can work at that, because I always think when I was a kid, I was like, oh, I was rubbish on a bike, but then I could do, like if it was on a push bike, I could do stupid stuff, and people would always go, oh, you're really good at that. But I guess, like you say, you take it for granted. You don't think, oh, I've never been one of those people like, yeah, I'm the best at this, I'm the best at that. So I think of.
That destroys you if you do that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
you've got to almost think, like, what can I do to be better? And it's the same in everything in life.
Yeah,
there's always a next level to improve. You've always got something, and there's always a goal. And when you finish one thing, there's another goal to aim for.
Definitely.
And you have that focus. I mean, we always say, and it's so important. All the people that we've met, particularly doing the interviews on the podcast, is like when you surround yourself with the right people who encourage you. That's what takes you to the next level.
Oh,
it
totally.
just lifts you up.
Definitely.
Because as long as you've got someone saying, Tom, you can do this. You're on this bike now, and this is your massive. I mean, and not that it's more pressure, but you just use that natural to just tweak a little here and tweak a little bit there, and obviously that makes
it is like a vibe type thing, isn't it? Like there's such a positive vibe around it, and it brings you forward. You could have someone could give you all the best bits, but if the people around you aren't good, and I've had that with other teams in the past. I've had really good bits and like the bike and bits and bobs like that, but because the atmosphere hasn't been great, you then don't get the best out of you as a rider. So it's and your confidence is the biggest thing. Like I never ever say I'm the best rider or anything, but if I did, then you wouldn't always be looking for that extra bit. If I was like, oh, I'm the best, I don't need to improve. Whereas I think having that mindset, you're looking for the little.
About the mindset. Does anyone help you with all this mindset and mind coaching, or it's all about you?
I had a guy a couple of years ago help for another guy helped me, but again, it was kind of stuff I already knew, but I I listen to. I'm not very good at reading books, but I listen to Audible, listen to books. So I've listened to quite a few things, and I definitely think just like visualizing and being positive in general, just that whole thing.
Is there any particular person that's influenced you that you've been listening to? You think that really stands out in terms of good mindset advice?
I mean, even that. I was listening to that Wim Hof book where about the breathing and stuff, and like visualize. I think visualizing, breathing, and like kind of like manifesting good things, or visualizing it, but feeling positive at the same time. There's one called Psycho-Cybernetics, which sounds a bit deep, but it's kind of. That's a really, really good book about how to use the power of your brain, basically. When you think about something negative and it can make you feel sick, you're like, that is the power of your brain. But then flipping that and then being like, okay, if your brain's powerful enough to do that, you're capable of
switch it positive.
Definitely, yeah. So it's kind of being aware and harnessing the power of your,
on something that we've got and we don't even realize.
I know,
isn't it?
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Crazy,
and a lot of people.
But the good thing is that we are living in this time of the world, in the ages that people are more talking or finding out. So
it used to be mad to say it.
To...
If you said it like 5 years ago, people would go like, "You're absolutely nuts." Or like, if you talk about like manifesting something, like I didn't even know what manifesting meant, but it's even I think the way that some people talk about it, they think you're like crazy. Whereas if you just think all it is just visualizing something.
Yep.
Everything starts in your head, doesn't it?
It does.
If something starts in your head and then you create that dream and then it turns into reality, and it's that's the same with anything. The person who invented the light bulb, it came as an idea in their head and then they turned it into reality.
Because you've got to push. At the end of the day, everyone can. I mean, so many people. I mean, we talk about it. We all have an idea, like it's a business idea. Or, I'm going to do this, but then if you don't physically do it, you think I'd like to do it. And then you never get that chance. It's not until you have a go and you push. I mean, we've all got the chance to have a go, but we can fail.
Definitely.
But then if you fail, then you can look and go, well, why did that not work?
Definitely.
And then you can build on that. And it's the same for you and what you're doing. I mean, like, I'm sure there must be times when you think, angle here, change this line here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it makes a difference. And, you can get a 10th here and a 10th there. And, like, it's all about little increments. And it's the same in every aspect of life.
Yeah, it's so true. It's funny how you can kind of use that, like, not only analogy, but doing it the same with racing, applying that to other things, like you say, if it's work or a relationship or something like that. It's all
aspects of life.
Yeah,
getting the best out of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, can I ask you, because there's a few things that always fascinate me. So, I can't imagine. So, when you're riding on the bike in a race and it's dry and it starts to rain, how would you adjust in your mind to knowing? Because and I watch it in Formula One, and I've seen it in bike racing.
Yeah,
the conditions change so quickly.
Yeah,
I mean, you can be one half of the circuit it's completely dry.
Yeah,
and the other half it's belting it down because in the summertime it's like a thunderstorm or something.
Yeah,
and you've got to adjust. How mentally? How do you do that?
I think you just have to, like, again, don't like overthink it or don't try and like overreact to the situation. Because if you go, oh no, it's raining, like, you just be like, it's exactly the same for every other person on the track.
Yeah.
So you're not alone in that thing, And then again, it's like using your head. Do you let someone pass? So then, rather than you being the risk taker at the front, because again, you've got to relax and then feel what the bike's doing. If it's straight away, like, you're locking the front in a straight line, like, it's really, really wet. But then if you've got someone in front of you who then makes a mistake, you can kind of
judge off them.
Judge off of them. So you've just got to be relaxed really in that situation and let someone else make the mistake.
That's good.
I love it.
But how about visuals? Because I mean, like, again, like with the spray and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I guess the advantage of being in front is you've got a clear track in terms of vision, so you can see what's going on. The disadvantage of being behind is you're just riding into a wall of fog.
Depends on how hard it's raining. Like, if it's raining that hard, but the worst bit is when it's spitting. And then we always say, like, mental rain. If you go out in qualifying and you start to get a bit of spit, you know that in reality, like, if it is spitting, you can still push really hard for one lap, because it takes a decent amount of time sometimes if the track is really hot and it's spitting, it can hit the track and it can just evaporate instantly. So it's not causing. The only time is when it sits on top of a white line, then it actually sits on the paint, because obviously it's like not as hot or whatever. So then the white lines get really slippery. So you just be like, stay off the white lines and the curbs, but just push for a lap. But then if you're in front, you can't see where it's laying on the track. That's the other advantage. If someone's in front of you, you can see like a greasy line on their tyre. And if you see the greasy line on their tyre, you need to back off, because you're probably going to crash.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, it's just experience. That's all it is. It comes down to is experience.
And in terms of tracks you've raced on, where's your favourite? Is it like a fast flowing track like Silverstone, or somewhere like? Have you ridden Spa? I mean, everyone. I mean, like, I know in Formula One, everyone goes Spa is the one. Yeah. And Eau Rouge and going down and up and over that top. Have you done that on the bike?
Yeah, we race there each year with World Endurance. Okay. Yeah, so that is probably. Oh, it's really hard to say, because it's a dangerous track as well. I love Silverstone. In the UK, Silverstone's my favourite track. We don't get to ride there anymore. We got to race there this year, which I was absolutely buzzing about. But then, I don't know, Spa kind of, the first time we went there, me and my friend rode the whole morning, and we just came in and we were just on another level. Like we were just absolutely peaking. We were so like excited to be riding. We were just having the best time ever. And then the circuit got closed. Someone crashed and actually died when we were on track. So like you can imagine going from cloud 9 and there's a corner called Blanchimont.
Yeah. I know
So on a bike, you come through the first part. There's like 2 parts, isn't there? There's a Blanchimont. I don't know what the second really far. It might be a different. So you got the flat out left hander, and then in a Formula One car, the second left, I think, is Blanchimont.
Yeah, that's right.
But someone crashed through the first fast left, and there's like no runoff. There's absolutely no runoff at all, and he tucked the front through there. And then when we found out, and then all of a sudden, when you're riding around the track, I never really look at the barriers or anything like that.
No,
and then all of a sudden, I'm going, that guy's just, and he'd been going there for like 10 years. He lived down the road.
Wow.
So I was like, it's not even.
Knew the circuit.
Knew the circuit. And again, you imagine just being like, we're on a track day and some guys, poor guys just like died doing a track day. So then the reality kind of hits. But yeah, then, so whenever I ride around there, I'm always like, a
Extra
bit like
careful.
So after that happened, did the FIA and the changed anything to try and make that?
that was just on a track day. So that was like the company. So obviously Spa will rent the track out, and then I think it was like biker days, whatever. They have their own insurance policies and stuff. But when we race there with World Endurance, which is under the FIM, they have air fences and stuff, which is obviously safer. But again, you don't want to crash. Like you're going literally like 190 mile an hour through there or something stupid. But every time I'd go through it on that race weekend specifically, I'd just hang off the bike so much, and sort of I thought, even if I lose 0.3 through here, I can gain it through the next bit. So yeah, it is.
Making up.
Yeah, you don't riding in the British tracks, because I've been riding since a kid. I never look at the barriers, so but riders that come over, they're like, you can't ride around here. There's, it's so dangerous. There's no runoff or anything. But we're just kind of conditioned and used to it.
And also, I guess the speeds and and every single corner.
Oh, the lumps, the bumps, every bit of
anything that's going to throw you.
When you're not on the track, do you prefer driving a car or a bike?
I used to work for Royal Enfield for like 3 years, and I used to ride a bike on the road every day, 250 miles every day.
Wow.
And I used to do development riding, and it used to bore me. Like, so I have like I don't really get anything out of riding a bike on the road, and plus I'll end up riding like an idiot and probably
so you don't really ride the bike on the road?
No, not really. No, I've got a full bike license and stuff, but I just don't think it's.
And especially you like the speed, obviously.
I know,
you can't drive with that speed, better to keep it for the track.
Definitely, yeah. And I always advise people, if they are going to ride on the road, like I watch people ride like an idiot, and I just think it's not worth it. Take your bike and go to a track day, spend £100 on a track day, and then let your
passion.
Your anger out there.
Like. Yeah.
And particularly but a bike on the road.
Oh,
I mean, they're
ridiculous!
So much faster.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Than a performance car.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just nuts.
You go and buy a bike for like £2,000, an old 600. It will outperform like a Ferrari. Like a £300,000 Ferrari.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't matter how good your reactions are or how good a rider you are. If you're going down the road at 100 mile an hour in first gear and someone pulls out, you're not going to, you're not going to stop. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the scary thing.
Yeah. So that's the reason why I don't really ride on the road.
Yeah, but that's as well a good advice.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Grab the bike, go and enjoy on a proper place to
do it. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think people love riding. If you go to really nice roads and you're going at the speed limit, and you still get that really nice feeling.
I've got a colleague recently. He get back to the bikes.
Yeah.
And they've got a really nice bunch of friends. And usually, I think it's in the weekend. I don't know, every Saturday and Sunday or one of the mornings, but a bit more earlier.
Yeah.
They just go to the seaside, just have a coffee there, and then back. But it's not about to go
fast,
crazy or whatever, just to enjoy there. And that's why I think most probably it's Sunday morning when the traffic is less and things like that, which is cool. I mean, if this is your relaxing way
time to get
or hobby, I would say thank you very much, Tom, for your time.
Thank you,
it's been great to share.
Thank you very much.
Very humble and amazing young
Really kind. Sorry, I turned
men,
up in
I
my
would
work
say.
gear.
That's fine.
Like a
Here
bit-
we are real, we are
Yeah,
authentic,
exactly.
and yeah, wish you all the best for this season.
Thank you very much.
We'll
Yeah.
keep an eye. I will
We're watching.
really
that'd be
need
really
to
cool.
watch something
Yeah.
and to see what's going on.
Yeah,
And
you'll have to keep us, particularly if when you're local, and we'll come,
Yeah,
come and watch
definitely.
the race. That'd
That'd
be
be
really
cool,
good.
yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
We've got a couple of brands hatches, so I think there's one in
oh yeah, let us
July
know.
and October
That's
as well.
gonna be
Yeah.
cool
perfect.
to
We'll do
come
that.
and
That'd be fantastic to do that.
obviously my heart probably will explode, but I will try
Yeah, so-
to do it. Yeah, thanks for your time.
No,
All
thank you
the
very much
best.
for having me. Yeah, thank you very much.
Tom. Well, I hope everyone's really enjoyed listening to Tom's story. Please do watch out for Tom. You can see him in both the series this year. I'm sure we'll drop some contact information and maybe share it nearer the time when the races start. So you better follow Tom. I'd like to thank everyone for watching today's episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please do give us a like. And if you would please subscribe to us, we'd really appreciate that. And if you're listening or watching on Spotify, please do give us a follow. Thank you very much, and we'll see you very soon. Take care. All the best. Bye bye.